Phone. We've found what you're looking for. Welcome to the Let's Talk Cabling podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you gotta ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Alrighty, welcome. It is Thursday night, 6 p.m. That can only mean one thing. After Hours Live with Chuck Bowser, RCDD, your registered communications distribution designer, where we ask your questions about ICT installation, certification, estimation, project management. You name it, we cover it. Right now, we're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok. And if I can figure out my old phone, we'll also be live on Instagram. So welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing it? I already see a question coming on TikTok. I'll answer that in just 1 second. But I want to do something new, right? I got something new. So unfortunately, my TikTok people aren't going to be able to see this. If you want to see this, you're just going to have to go to the YouTube feed. I got a doggy cam set up. Yes, that's my baby right there. She's being a good girl, laying back there, behaving herself like a good girl. So we're going to put her down in the lower third. So that's going to be our doggy cam down there, right? Doggy cam. Now, we always start off with every episode with, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? Put in the comments what you are drinking. This is an after-hour show, so you can be drinking adult beverages. I'm drinking Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew. That doesn't happen very often, but I'm in a Mountain Dew kind of a mood today. So Mountain Dew it shall be. Make sure you tell me in the chat box what it is that you are drinking. What you are drinking. And like I said, it is after hours, so you can, let's go check the chat box what some people are drinking here, right? There we go. See, what's this question say? That is my Harley cam. I'll bring it up so you can see a little better. That's my Harley cam. She's back there being a good girl, watching Daddy, making sure Daddy's being a good boy. She's sleeping. Yeah. So let's put it back on. Chris, how you doing, my friend? Glad to have you in the house. Thank you for appreciating the content. I put it out there. I've been doing this for almost 2 years now. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I am everywhere. I appreciate that. Now that we finished that, I got to do my plug. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Got to do it. If you like this content, please, would you consider subscribing to the channel? There's a QR code I just put on the screen right there. See that QR code right there? There you go. Take your phone, do a picture of that. You can actually buy me a cup of coffee. You can schedule a 15-minute Zoom call with me to talk about career path or communications, cabling, anything. After hours, of course. You can also find the links to all of my web pages and stuff. So, as a matter of fact, let's just move that QR code to the other side. All right. So, check on the Harley cam. Yep, she's still laying down there nice and peacefully. So, after that, after I always do that, I always do the acronym challenge. If you know me, I'm famous for doing the acronym challenge, right? Look me up on LinkedIn. Every weekday morning at 8:10, I do an acronym challenge. Right now, we are in the ITSA manual, the Information Transport Systems Installation Methods Manual. That's the manual that tells people how to actually install cabling. We're in Chapter 3, the safety section. So this one comes from that chapter. The acronym is lowercase m, uppercase A. Lowercase m, uppercase A. If you know what that acronym means, put it in the chat box. What does that acronym mean? I'll give you guys a second to answer that. Let's check the chat box, see if anybody knows it. No, so nobody's even tried to guess it yet. It stands for, anybody TikTok? Lowercase m, uppercase a. What does that mean? It stands for milliamp. Milliamp. Oh, I forgot to do my acronym statement. Help control the acronym population. Don't forget to spay or neuter your acronym. We have enough in our industry. Please spay or neuter it. So why is milliamp in the safety section in the ITSA manual, right? Because it can be a danger, right? So what does that mean by that? A lot of people don't know this. So this is right from the ITSA manual. It says if you have 2 to 3, if your body gets exposed to 2 to 3 milliamps of electricity, let me turn that off. There we go. If your body gets exposed to 2 to 3 milliamps, you will feel a light tingling, right? 10 milliamps can cause painful shock and also cause your muscles to not release. 50 to 100 milliamps, breathing becomes difficult. At 100 milliamps, you trigger ventricular fibrillation. I can never say that word, which causes your heart to repeatedly relax and violently clamp shut. This can severely damage your heart, and it usually results in death. At 200 milliamps, that causes the heart to clamp shut. You get severe burns, and at that level, might be less dangerous than 100 milliamps, but it still kind of hurts and stuff. So, George, you should be on the YouTube feed. I've got a Harley cam. I got a separate camera pointed at Harley laying behind me on the bed. So you should be checking me out on there. So there you go. So there's the acronym challenge. Now let's move on to the motivational quote, and then we'll get straight into our questions. So this one was a meme that I saw on the internet, and I love it. Absolutely love it. And it says, if you are more fortunate than others, build a longer table, not a taller fence. I'll say that again. If you are more fortunate than others, build a longer table, not a taller fence. This applies to both work and professional life, right? But work-wise, share your knowledge with somebody. Take somebody under your wing. Teach them. Mentor them. It's not going to hurt your career. And if they're one of your subordinates and that you take them under your wing and you invest in them, their performance is going to be better. And if their performance is better, that makes you look better. Makes you may be able to get a raise. But plus, it makes you a better person. My dad always used to say, in teaching you learn and learning you teach. So get on with it. Invest in people. Don't keep that to yourself. So let's move straight to the questions. First one was from TikTok. And I told them I'd get this one first. We scroll back up. And so Big Daddy G3 wanted to know, what is the benefit of Cat 8 over Cat 6? That is a great question. Now, Cat 6 performs up to 500 megahertz, and you can do 10 gig up to 295 feet, right? Cat 8, you can do 40 gig, but you can only do it up to the maximum of 98.4 feet. There aren't a whole lot of 40 gig switches out there. So if it's residential use, small business use, you're really not going to reap a benefit. You're going to spend a lot of extra money for very little reward. It's best just to stick with Cat 6A. Oh, somebody did get the acronym challenge. So there, Constantine got it. Milliamps. He was the first one. And then the second person that got it was Chris. So very good. So for commercials, Cat 8's really designed for data centers. When you think about your runs in data centers, they're generally pretty short, aren't they? You're going from a cabinet to a cabinet. You're usually going from the top of a cabinet to the top of a cabinet. So the advantages in data centers, yes. For a home network, for an office network, save the money. Go with Cat 6A. Cat 7, Cat 7A, those aren't even recognized by the ANSI standards. They're recognized by the ISO standards. So, but there are some Cat 7 installs in the, it's down in the bottom corner, right-hand corner. Here, let me bring it up so everybody can see it. For those who don't know, that's my doggy cam. You can only see this if you're on the live feed. That's Harley. She's back to being a good girl. I'm surprised she didn't move when I said her name, right? So she's going to be hanging out in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen while we're having our call. So there you go. So yeah, stick with Cat 6A. Cat 8's an overkill unless you got a data center, right? So now let's get on with the questions. So the first one came to me from Nolan. Nolan's a really good friend of mine. I know Nolan through Low Voltage Nation, met him at the Bixie Conference. He asks me questions every once in a while, and he asked me this question, and he said, this would be a good question for the After Hours live stream. And I read it, it would be. And his question is, do you have to bond both ends of a shielded cable? And the quick answer to that is, yes, you do. Well, actually, follow the manufacturer's instructions. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Most of the manufacturers I'm aware of will tell you both sides have to be bonded to a ground. Now, shielded twisted pair cable is a cable that we like to use in environments that might be experiencing a lot of electromagnetic interference. Think about a military base. Think about a hospital. Think about an industrial plant. That's shielded around the cable. That's shielded around the cable. When the energy tries to get into it, hits that shield and it dissipates on the shield. It doesn't get into the cable. Now, here in the U.S., which where I'm located, maybe not where you're located, but where I'm located, we generally use UTP cabling, unshielded twisted pair cabling. And the reason for that is shielded cable costs more money. Shielded cable takes more time to terminate. Shielded cable requires that additional step of bonding it to a ground on both ends. Now, the bond on the work area outlet side, you're going to use a shielded patch cord. To bond it in the telecom room, you're going to bond it to that secondary bonding bus bar, just like you've done everything else. Each shielded patch panel has to have its own unique connection to the bus bar. That doesn't mean each shielded patch panel has to have its own wire going back. The best way to do it, if you've got a rack that's got multiple shielded twisted pair cable patch panels, let's say you have 3. You're going to cut 3 bonded conductors equal length. You'll attach one end to the bus bar, and then you're going to take a bonded conductor from where the conductor goes over top of the rack, take it all the way down to the base, attach it to the base, and then attach those 3 to that vertical bonded conductor. Because you want to keep those conductors at equal length as much as possible. And then the patch panels, bond them to the ground. You can do it by scratching paint. You can use it by paint piercing washer. Some of the manufacturers will tell you a number 14. Some will tell you number 6. Just kind of really going to say. So, very good. So Talk.com guy says, where is the work area outlet going to pick up the bond? When you use the shielded patch cord at the work area outlet. So it picks up the shield on the cable, and then when you plug it into the computer, it picks up its bond to a ground through the chassis on the PC. When you plug the PC into the electrical receptacle, you got the 2 spades, and then you got the ground prong. So it picks up its ground through the chassis of the PC. That's a great question, telecom guy. Great question. So when you're terminating the shielded patch panels, you also, when you get done, you want to measure them. So take your volt ohm meter, put one end on the bus bar, put the other end on the furthest one in this room, and then measure it. You should get 0.1 ohms of resistance or less. 0.1 ohms of resistance or less, right? Now, let's move on to the next question. This one comes from Jamie. All right, Jamie is sent me this question through LinkedIn, and his question is, will Category 7 cable work with Category 5E? I'm upgrading my home network. So Cat 5E performs up to 100 megahertz. Cat 5E will support 1 gigabit up to the full 295 feet. It will support newer networks, but not to that full 295 feet. Cat 7 operates at 600 megahertz, and it can support up to 10 gig up to that 295 feet. Cat 7 cable is shielded cable, which means, again, you got to bond it to a ground. Now, that increases the difficulty in terminating that cable. And Cat 7 cable uses a proprietary connector. It's called a Terra connector. Now, in the U.S., Cat 7 is not recognized. Cat 7A is not recognized. That doesn't mean you won't find installations in the U.S. using Cat 7 cable. It just means the ANSI standard has not recognized it for the U.S. Cat 7, Cat 7A, you're going to find way more installs in Europe than you will in the U.S. It's kind of Cat 7 is one of those unique things. And the weird thing is, Cat6A gives you 10 gig to 295. Cat 7 gives you 10 gig to 295. So why pay the extra money? Just stay with Cat 6A, right? Now, an interesting thing, though, because I got to thinking about this question. Maybe he meant Cat7 cable and then terminating it on a regular jack instead of a Terra connector. Cat7 cable has 23 to 22 gauge conductors, right? The way that system works is the lower the number, the bigger the conductor, okay? And the reason for that is because it represents the number of times that conductor was pulled through a draw. The lower the number, the bigger the conductor. So I got to thinking maybe he meant he ran Cat7 cable and then terminated on a jack. Well, most jacks, most AP8Cs can usually handle a 23 gauge conductor. Very few can handle a 22 gauge conductor. 22 gauge conductor is going to spread them pins inside the connector, and then next thing you know, you're going to have some problems. So I kind of don't recommend it. Plus, it's a shielded cable. You got to bond both ends to the ground, like I just told you. So my recommendation there is, again, use Cat6 or Cat6A. This is a residential. The standard actually tells us to use Cat6A. Bixby recommends Cat5E. No, sorry, I think Cat6. And then it also says in the book that the standard recommends Cat6A. Now, Cat6A gives you the same performance as that Cat7 cable does without the shield. Because if you have a shield and it's not bonded to the ground, it's going to act like an antenna, right? So that's a beautiful thing. If you use Cat6A, unshielded Cat6A, you don't have to worry about that. And the parts are going to be way more common in the United States than the parts for Cat7. There you go. Now, the next question. This one comes from one of our regular listeners. This is Mark. Mark is actually was a guest on the podcast, Let's Talk Cabling, in case you couldn't tell by the neon sign sitting back over there, right? Mark asked me, is testing flawed because the network traffic is dark and it's not a real world condition? Real world condition. Now, I could probably answer this question, but I reached out to one of my friends, Steve Cowles from AEM, and I asked him for his opinion because Steve is more of a subject matter expert on this than I am. And his opinion is the testing's not flawed. And he was thinking maybe you were thinking of the effects of alien crosstalk, right? Alien crosstalk can affect that. Cat6, it's going to be lower alien crosstalk, but it might be an issue. But you can do alien crosstalk testing. It's not required by the standards, but you can do those testing. Now, he was saying that, maybe it was an ELTCTL. ELTCTL. That was an acronym that Chuck didn't know. Chuck had to go look it up, right? So that stands for equal level transverse conversion transfer loss. I had never heard of that before. This is why I went to Steve, right? I had to look it up, right? Nobody can know everything, but I know people. So what is that? It's a measurement that the tester does by injecting a differential mode signal into the twisted pair, and then it measures the common mode at the far end on that same pair. The smaller the common mode measurement, the far better the ELTCTL test. Ugh. Yeah, that was a hard one. So maybe that's what you're thinking of, Mark. I'm not really sure, but alien crosstalk is probably the only thing I could think that you cause. It's when you test it with a cable certifier, you're going to be good to go. There's very few things that you'll come across that'll cause you those problems. The next question comes from Karen, and Karen wants to know, what is structured cabling, and is it different than the cable that I install for a customer at their office? So, the textbook definition of structured cable system is the complete configuration of cabling and hardware that's designed to provide a comprehensive information transport system that's intended to serve a wide range of uses. So it's everything from the patch cord to the connector on the faceplate to the horizontal cable to the backbone cable that goes down to the data center to the backbone cable that goes to the demarcation point. Everything from that demarcation point is all the way back to the patch cord is the structured cable plant, structured cable system. Now, they changed that acronym a while back. Now they call it an ICT, Information Communication Technologies. ICT. Means the same thing, but just to forewarn my TikTok people, I just got the little battery warning, so that my phone may die on you. So if you want to, switch over to YouTube, Let's Talk Cabling, or LinkedIn, or Facebook, and you'll see the little thing there. Right. Next question comes from Adon, and this came to me via TikTok a couple days ago in a message. And he wants to know, what is the industry standard for warranty? That's kind of a vague question, right? So are you talking about a warranty that a contractor will give or a warranty that a manufacturer will give? Now let's look at both of those. Most contractors, if they're not in some kind of a warranty program with a manufacturer, they generally going to give you a warranty between 1 and 25 years. Most of the contractors will give you a warranty between 1 and 5 years because they're on the hook for that. I did work for a company one time that did have a 25-year warranty. And that without, no matter whose cable you picked, no matter whose connectivity products you picked, they would offer you that 25-year warranty. So there's some out there to do that. In order to answer your question for the contractor, you really need to research the competitors in your area, right? What are other competitors giving? And then you need to decide, do I want to be running with the pack or do I want to run ahead of the pack? Like, see Hardy, she's tired because she ran. I took her outside and ran her before the show. She's tired. She's sleeping right now. So if you want to make more money, you want to lead the pack, don't you? Don't you? That's the best thing to do. You want to lead that pack. So if that scenario, I would think of giving a longer warranty as a contractor, right? And you kind of give you an example. I worked for a company, the very first communications company that I worked for. We used to do a lot of work for law firms. Law firms generally want you to come in after hours. They don't want you working during the day. And a lot of companies will charge you a premium for working third shift. So his whole gig was, we'll come in, work third shift, but the cost is still the cost. We don't charge extra for that third shift. So he got his foot in the door, and that gave him a lot of opportunities to work for a lot of law firms. Law firms will spend a lot of money on their cable plant, a lot of money. Now let's shift the conversation to manufacturer warranties, right? Manufacturer warranties. The manufacturer warranties can range anywhere from 15 years to a lifetime warranties, right? Now, most of the manufacturers, to get into a warranty program, they're going to want you to join their program and make commitments, to buying a certain amount of products. They want you to go through training, and it's not an easy process. But because of that whole process, now you get that longer warranty, and a lot of times you're off the hook. Now the warranty's on them, not on you. So that's the advantage of doing a warranty through a manufacturer. The next question, this one comes from Peter. And Peter says, once a project is done, what should the end deliverable be? Okay, so my question is, what's the customer's expectations, right? Obviously, they want a cable plant that's gonna perform, it's gonna be consistent, and it's always gonna be there and working. But on top of that, do they want post cutover support? Somebody to come here for a day or two once they cut over to the new cable plant. Do they want the test results delivered? Do they want them printed? Do they want them electronic? Do they want copies of the floor plans or the cut sheets? Whatever the customer expectations are, that should be part of your deliverables. If a customer does not give you expectations, then again, you want to make sure that cable plant is going to perform. It's going to be interoperable. It meets the codes and standards, and also has the highest quality available. Highest quality available. Because you want to be leading the pack. You want to test. How do you do that? You test each drop with a cable certifier. Each drop with a cable certifier. Now, I know some of the smaller companies, Chuck, we can't afford a cable certifier. Or, no, the customer's going to pay me extra. Well, we can talk about later about charging a customer to get them access to those test results. But you as a professional should be testing each and every cable with a certifier, especially if they say, look, we want a cable that meets Cat5E, Cat6, Cat6A specifications. And for no other reasons, to cover yourself, right? And again, if they didn't ask for any any deliverables, then I would go in and maybe create a simplistic drawing, right? A floor plan. One of the easiest things to do is if they got an escape floor plan for fire escapes and stuff, for like fire drills, take that, make a copy of that. You can import that in and make a drawing out of that. You can do the cable pathways on there. You can put the drops on there with the numbers, right? And make that part of the package. Remember, the customer spent a whole bunch of money with you to put in this cable plant, because cable plants aren't cheap to put in. And yeah, they're going to see the telecom room. Yes, they're going to see the drops on the floor. Put something in their hands, okay? That way, put some effort to it. And use really nice binders. Use color printed pages. Okay, remember, you want to be a professional. You want to be a leader in your market. that's going to also help you justify your rates. So you can actually charge a little more than you would for, than somebody else, right? All right, let's go ahead and look at some of the questions we have in here. Let me see. Let's see. I'm looking to see any questions here. So there's the milliamp question. So Sam says, sorry, it was lost to the lines, through the check lines. Yeah, that's okay. Not a problem, my friend. George asked, where's the Harley Cam? The Harley Cam is right there. Right there in the corner. It's hard to do backwards. Yep. Nolan, did you see me? I answered your question, my friend. I answered your question. Now here comes a question, big one. Let's see what this. I got to put on my safety glasses to read this one. Holy cow! Chuck, is there a standard for rack layouts that determines whether you must mount the equipment and horizontal cabling in one rack or a cabinet rack? Is it separate in the cabinet, or does it just depend on the engineer's preference? Which is more? Hold on, turn it off so I can read the whole thing. Okay, which is more recommended? So, I've read the TDMM. I've read the ITSA manual. I'm working through the standards because I just purchased the standards. The rack layout's left wide open, but there are some things that you might want to follow. For example, if you're putting in some really big switches, put them down low, that below the center of gravity. Have your lighter stuff up towards the top. And if you've got a fiber enclosure, try to put that fiber enclosure in that very first position. That's going to be above eye level. That's going to help reduce the chances of injury to people, right? So there are some general guidelines, but there's nothing that I'm aware of that's going to tell you, you got to do this, this. Now, it does tell you, for example, for every patch panel, every rack unit of patch panel, you have to have one rack unit of horizontal wire manager plus one. But again, that's a recommendation. It's not a code thing. It's a recommendation. So there are some general guidelines, but other than that, it's pretty wide open. It's up to the engineer because there's way too many variables. Way too many variables. Tony says hi. How you doing, Tony? Good to see you back, my friend. So for those who came in later, there's my Harley Cam. She's back here sleeping like a good girl. Look at her. You know what it took me to get her to lay like that nice and quietly? I had to take her outside and wear her out with a tennis ball. Wear her out with a tennis ball. So she's back here sleeping now. All right, we're at 6:28. So Big Daddy asks, what if you have a high ground impedance? High ground impedance. I don't necessarily know the answer to that. So what I'll do, Big Daddy, is I'll reach out because I have a couple contacts. I'll reach out and get that answer for you. Are you and I friends on TikTok? If we are not, make sure we are. That way I can send you a message because I can't send you a message if we're not friends. So I'll find that answer out for you, unless Steve or Mike happen to be in the room tonight. So there you go. Nolan says, for the love of God, please include vertical wire managers. Yeah. There's a movement right now by our industry. It's been taking place over the last 5 years or so. People will put in a 24-port panel and a 24-port switch and make these little 3-inch patch cords and make everything live. I'm okay with that if you've got one patch panel and one switch. If you've got more than that, if you got 4 patch panels and 4 switches, that's not going to leave a whole bunch of room to get in there with a punch tool to terminate stuff. So give yourself room. Give yourself room, right? Any other questions? Let me check TikTok real quick. Don't see any questions floating in there. I don't see any questions floating in the chat box. So I guess that means we got to conclude tonight's show. And it's 6:29. So we're right there. So until next time, everybody, remember, knowledge is power. Oh, wait a minute. Before I leave, I got new stickers coming. Hey, Low Volt Warby, how you doing, my friend? I got new stickers coming. Make sure you keep in touch because I'll post them out when I get them here. So, till next time, everybody, knowledge is power.